Good evening. Happy Wednesday, family. Glory and honor to our Father, Yahweh, the creator of heaven and earth, the one in whose hand is life and time. Glory and honor to his name and to the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shah, the one who he was sent to be the sacrifice for sin of his people, the one who rose from the dead and is now the high priest that is not only the atonement for the sins of his people, but is also our righteousness in the sight of the Heavenly Father. Set forth so by the Father in order for the Father to dwell with us. Glory and honor to Father Yahweh, and glory and honor to Messiah Yahweh Shah. Greetings to the awakening 12 tribes of the children of Israel who are now being prepared to meet Messiah in peace. Greetings to the 144,000, the forerunners of the return of Messiah and the soon establishment of the Messianic kingdom. Greetings to the Gentile brothers and sisters who have joined the righteousness of the Messiah, who have been grafted into the family and who are now beloved. Greeting to the chat, Brother Lonnie, Brother Superstar, Brother Weothesia, Brother Baldy Thorpe, Brother Ricky Boyd, E.E., Yafi, Jillian Glasgow, Brother Cherokee Indian. Good to see all of you. Sister Love Blue, so excited because we are now almost got all of the families that's coming to Memorial Day weekend in. Almost all the money is in, and we are very excited because now we can see it. I got extra chairs rented already. I'm getting ready to go down to the facility just to review it again, make sure everything is okay. It looks like we're just about getting everything in place, and we're praising the Most High that's coming together. As we normally do, we talk on Wednesdays about current events. The biggest current event for the Hebrews that's coming up is the new year. And I wanted to review that with us as we always do at this time. We're getting ready to go into the new year. Now, some Hebrews I've seen on YouTube have celebrated the new year about a month ago, which is incorrect. And we're going to talk about the correct way of what's going on. Number one, if you see the thumbnail, if you saw the thumbnail, you will see four corners. And if you look at that closely, the four corners represent spring equinox, fall equinox, summer solstice, and winter solstice. Every year, these always happen about the same time, which is a sign that the Gregorian calendar is correct in terms of the numerology of it. So the Gregorian calendar, if it wasn't correct, and the Gregorian calendar goes like this: for 3 years, there's 365 days in a year. And then on the fourth year, there's 366 days. Okay. And the fourth year, where you have the 366 days, it's what I'm going to give you. Here's the first quiz question tonight. So the 3 years is 365 days a year. But the fourth year is 366 days, which was last year. It was 2024. Now, what is that year called when you have the 366-day year instead of 365? What is that year called? That's right, Brother Castle King. It's called leap year. That was a year ago. So every fourth year, there's a leap year. And so if that wasn't the case, then slowly but surely, the calendar would lose a day. So what would happen? I'm going to use a date. I'm going to say April 1st. Let's just use April 1st as an example. There's no special date except for our example. Okay. So let's use April 1st as an example. If the calendar was off, let's say it was short a day, they never did the leap year, then April 1st would turn into March 31st every 4 years. And then it would turn into March 30th every 4 years. And every 4 years, the days would go backwards. So that eventually April 1st would go all the way around in 300 something years. It would go all the way around the calendar backwards. Does that make sense, y'all? So that, let's say in 12 years, April 1st would be March 18th. and it would keep going backwards. Everybody follow me so far? So if it was going to stay April 1st, then it would need to be in line with the seasons and with the signs. The Bible tells us actually in Genesis chapter 1. Let's take a look at that. Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. I'm going to begin at verse 14. Genesis chapter 1, beginning at verse 14. And the Most High said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." So he gave lights in the heaven, and he gave them for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, so that you can mark signs and seasons and days and years by the heavens. See, because there was no clock, right? The Most High did not make a clock to put on a wall when he created the earth. So the times were judged by the signs in the heavens. And so you see sunrise, sunset, you see the phases of the moon, and that's what people used to use to judge times and years and months, okay, and weeks and days, okay? That's how they used to do it. So you have to have it the same. So every year, if you noticed, the spring is always in the same time, generally around March the 20th, every year. Every year, 6 months later, and we're talking about in the northern hemisphere. It's completely opposite in the southern hemisphere, but we're talking about the northern hemisphere for the sake of simplicity. Okay, so every year in the northern hemisphere, around March the 20th, is the equinox. Now, what is the equinox? The equinox is when the exact almost is 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. That's the equinox. Okay, that's the equinox in the spring. 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night. Now, on the equator, it's always that way. Okay, so in a country like called Ecuador, the reason it's called Ecuador is because it's on the equator. And in Ecuador, on the equator, it's always 12 hours day and 12 hours night. But off the equator, it changes. And in the northern hemisphere, after the spring starts, the days start getting naturally longer, which you already know is even when they don't switch the clocks, the days start to get naturally longer. Okay. And so and then when you get to the fall equinox, it's the opposite. The days again get to 12 hours of night and 12 hours of day, and the days begin to get shorter so that there's more night than day. Right now, we're in the period of time where there's more day than night. The days are getting longer. So and it happens exactly about the same, not exactly, but given a couple of days plus or minus, put it that way. It's not exactly all the same. In fact, this year it was about a week or about 6 days earlier that we had the equinox. But on the calendar, it's around the same time every year, around the 20th of March, and the 20th, 6 months later, the 20th of September. So you get equal number of hours for day, equal number of hours for night. At this point of the year, going forward till you get to the fall equinox, the days will continually get longer. Now, they get to a point where they become the longest day in terms of daylight of the year. That's June 20th. That's called the summer solstice. Okay, I want to make sure I didn't lose y'all yet. I know this is because especially Castle King Character 1, this is where he get lost. But I'm gonna try to make it even he could understand. I'm gonna try to make it simple. Okay, so from right here in March 20th, by the time you get to June 20th, you're at the longest day of the year. That's called the summer solstice. Okay, opposite of that, which is 6 months later, December 20th, that's the shortest day of the year. So that the day with the most sunlight is June 20th. The day with the least sunlight is 6 months later, December 20th. Those are called winter and summer solstice. I want to make sure we got this. Okay. So you start off from now, the days will start getting longer until you get to June 20th. That's the longest day of the year. And then from June 20th, the days start getting shorter, so that from now to June 20th, you're gonna have more sunlight than night. So okay, so you're gonna your daylight will be more than like 13 hours, 14 hours, and your night light will be something like less, 10 hours, 11 hours. And it'll be like that till you get to June 20th, and then the day starts getting shorter and shorter until you get to the fall equinox, where it's equal, 12 and 12. And then it starts getting the opposite, where the night starts getting longer. From September 20th going out all the way back to March, the night starts getting longer. And the longest night is December 20th. Everybody got me so far? So it's balance. And if the calendar days were off, that balance wouldn't exist. Okay, if the calendar days were off, that balance wouldn't exist. So what people used to say, and I've read this, where people would say that the Hebrew calendar was 254 days, which is not true. They said it was 254 days. If the Hebrew calendar was actually 254 days, right? So that means when the calendar is 365, that means you're 11 days short every year. So every year, instead of it being April 1st the next year, it would go back to March 19th. And then it would go back to March 8th. And then it would go back to February, and you keep going back. And eventually your new year will be, some crazy time. Okay, because you're losing days. You're not keeping up with what the earth is doing. So in the Hebrew economy, there's two things. First, the year is 360 days long. The Bible, all the Bible prophecies are based on 360-day years. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the number in the Bible is 7. Okay, so for example, again, in Leviticus chapter 20, is it 25? In Leviticus 25, Leviticus chapter 25. In the Bible, everything is 7. 7 days in a week, right? And then we know it, like, okay, let's look at this. Leviticus chapter 25, the year of the Jubilee is what? Notice this. Leviticus chapter 25. I'm going to begin at verse 1. Leviticus 25, I'm going to begin at verse 1. And I'm going to read down to verse 4. And Yahweh spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Shabbat unto Yahweh. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But the 7th year shall be a Shabbat of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for Yahweh. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard. So every 7th year was a Sabbath of rest. Every 7th day is a Sabbath, right? 7. Now, therefore, for the Hebrew calendar, every 7 years, listen to me carefully, every 7 years, there should be the exact same number of days as the Gregorian calendar. I want to make sure that makes sense to you. Because the Gregorian calendar, in terms of number of days, is correct. Otherwise, the seasons would be off, but they're not. The seasons are always on time. So that's telling you they got the days correct. But we're trying to say, okay, what does the Hebrew calendar do? So one thing we could start off understanding is that Hebrew calendar goes by 7. So every 7 years, the Gregorian calendar and the Hebrew calendar should have the exact same number of days. I want to make sure we understand that part so far. Everybody got us so far? Okay, so every 7 years, the Gregorian calendar and the Hebrew calendar should have the equal number of days. Okay, all right. Now, let's go back to Gregorian calendar for a second. So we just said that in the Gregorian calendar, every 3 years is 365 days a year. And in the 4th year, there's a leap year. Okay, we understand that. So for 3 years, it's 365. And then the 4th year is a leap year. So over the course of 7 years in the Gregorian calendar, there's 2,500 days. That's every 7 years. So in the Gregorian calendar, you're going to have every 7 years, 2,556 days. That is 365, 365, 365, 366, then 365, 365, 365. That's 2,556 days every 7 years. So now what we need to understand is, and Castle King, you probably want to write that down. You probably want to write that down. So every 7 years is 2,556 days. Okay? So now in the Hebrew calendar, for a 7-year period, it needs to be 2,556 days. Everybody got that so far? I want to make sure. Castle King, my brother, you with me? Carry the. You're gonna be my sign. So carry the C. Y'all got this. Carry the one. Okay, everybody. Okay, 2,556. Okay, now this is the only time you're gonna need your calculator. All right. I want you to do this. Are you ready? I want you to take 360 and multiply it by 7 and tell me what you get. 360 and multiply it by 7. You're going to be short, but how much you short? That's right, 25:20. A lot of people would know that from Leviticus chapter 27, right? A lot of people would know that. But, okay, 25:20. So you're short 36 days. Now, what does that mean? That means every 7th year, your 12th month is going to end 36 days short of the real new year. Everybody got me so far? So every 7th year, your new year is going to be 36 days short. So what do you do about that? I want to make sure we got that. So you got 2556 for the Gregorian, but you got 2520 for 360 days. So what are you going to do about that? That means every 7th year, you add a 36-day month. You add a 13th month. Thank you. Every 7th year, you add a 36-day month. Now, how would you know when to do that? Well, first of all, you would know because last year, most people didn't realize this because I'm crazy. I'll be watching the new moon. Y'all see me take pictures of it. I'll be counting them. Last year, the 12th new moon ended in February. The 12th new moon ended last year in February. Okay. So and the reason is because it was the 7th year. Everybody got me so far? It ended in February. So you're like, you're short because you're not even to the equinox yet. The new year is going to begin after the spring starts, right? Because the first year of the Most High told the children of Israel, month of Abib, that's spring. But you're well short of spring. You're still in winter. So what do? Last year, you're supposed to add 36 days. You're supposed to add a 36-day month for your 13th month. And then you're back in line. See, that's why some brothers was counting the new year and it was still February this year. I heard one brother doing, it's the new year. No, it wasn't. He didn't add the 36 days. Y'all got me. And that's why, right, if you added the 36 days last year and you added the 13th month, right now you're at the end of the regular 12th month because you're back in line. Does that make sense? So last year you should have added the 30, and I did. I added it last year, and I was telling y'all, people were saying it wasn't New Year because you needed to add the 36-day month because the 12th month came in February. Okay? The new year for the Hebrew is always in the spring. Y'all got that, right? I mean, I don't got to explain that to you. The new year for the Hebrew is always in the spring. So that means for us, the new year is always going to begin after, on the Gregorian calendar, is going to be after the spring equinox, after the equinox. Once the equinox is done, that's when our new year comes. The first new moon after the equinox is the first new moon of spring. Y'all got me? So after the equinox, which generally they say is March 20th, this year it was It was like a week earlier. I want to say it was around the 16th or the 15th of March. So now last year you added that 13, but you don't need to add it now because you're back in line. So now we're right now, technically, the moon phase is called a waning crescent. That's where the moon phase is right now. It's called a waning crescent. So that means that's the end of a month. Now, in the world, they count the blackness of the month as a new month. That's not a new month. That's not a new month till you actually see a new month. That's the sign in the heavens. So when you see they call the waxing crescent, which is supposed to come like maybe next Monday or Tuesday, when you see that, that's your new year. That's the new year, and that's your new month. And then when you see that waxing crescent, 14 days later, that's the Passover. And then the 15th day, which that's going to be, and that's the thing, another sign of the Passover is that you're going to see a full moon. Full moons are always middle month. Full moons are always the middle of the month. Every time you see a full moon, it's the middle of the Hebrew month. Every time you see a full moon. So that's why the Most High said the Passover is the 14th day of the first month. That's the first new moon of the spring. The first new moon of the year. The first full moon of the year. I'm sorry. The first full moon of the first month, the first full moon of the year, the first full moon of the spring. That's your Passover. The 15th day, which is the next day, is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And again, the full moon lasts for a couple of days. Y'all notice that, right? The full moon is just not one day. The full moon lasts like 2, 3, 4 days. The full moon stays for a minute. So about the 14th day of the month, you start seeing the full moon, and the 15th day is the full moon. And that's why in the 7th month, the full moon of the 7th month, I'm going to give you, here's your second quiz question. The 7th month is a certain feast, and the full moon of that month is that feast. What is that? What's the 7th month feast? The full moon. In the 7th month of the Hebrew year, not of the Gregorian calendar, the 7th month of the Hebrew year is Pentecost. No, not Pentecost. No, that's not. Come on. We're going to talk about Pentecost in a minute, but no, that's not it. What's the 7th? That's right. The feast. Let me show you. And thank you, brother David, brother Superstar. Let's look at Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 33 and 34. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 33 and 34. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto Yahweh. So always remember, when you see a new moon, it is always the 15th day of the month, the middle of the month. That's when you see the new moon. Okay? Everybody got me so far? So far, so good. Don't go ahead of me because you're going to get lost, okay? Try to stay with me. All right, so right now, we're coming into the first new moon of the year, probably around next Monday, Tuesday, even Wednesday, somewhere in that time period. I'm just guessing, but you'll see it, right? Because you'll see it, the new moon. When you see the new moon, that's the first day of the year. 14 days later, you're going to see a full moon. And when you do, that's the Passover. So let's say, for the sake of example, next Tuesday is April 1st. So let's say that you see the new moon then. So now that's telling you that's April 1st. So 14 days later, which is April 14th, that's going to be your Passover. And then you'll see it'll be a full moon. It'll look like a full moon. It's not full, but it'll look like a full moon. And then the 15th day of the month is the full moon. Okay. Y'all got me so far? So that's so every month, first, second, third, fourth, whatever, 12 months, when you see a full moon, you know it's the middle of the month. So the 15th day of the 7th month is the full moon in the 7th month. Does that make sense? Everybody got me? So it's the full moon in the 7th month. Okay. So and it's like that every year. Now it's not always on the exact same date. So sometimes you might get that full moon of the 7th month at the end of September, and sometimes you might get it in October. Okay, that's generally when it is. It's never later than October. So generally, the full moon of the 7th month is either late September or early October, depending on how the moon phases go. Okay, everybody with me so far? So that is why always remember this: after the spring equinox is our new year. If you see the 12th month of the Hebrew year, if you see the new moon of the 12th month in February, you know you got to add 36 days. Okay, does that make sense, y'all? Everybody got me? I want to make sure we go. That's why a lot of people talking about New Year. They did not add the 36 days last year, and they should have. Okay, yeah, that's why I'm not trying to pick on Catholics. Can you know that it's numbers, and not everybody follows numbers. It's definitely not everybody follows numbers. So where are we at right now on March 26, 2025? Okay, we're about 5 or 6 days from the first new moon of the year. We're after the spring equinox, and the days are longer. Right now, if you look on any weather report, you will see there's more sun than dark. It'll say like it's 12 hours and 30 minutes of sun and 11 hours of 30 minutes, something like that, of darkness. Because now the days are starting to get longer. We're in the spring now. Okay, we're in the spring now. And but we haven't gotten the new moon yet. We need the new moon for it to be the new month. Okay, our months start with the new moon. And in fact, we know, in fact, let's take a look in Isaiah chapter 66. Isaiah 66, verse 23. Actually, I'm going to start from verse 22 and read verse 22 and 23. Isaiah 66, verses 22 and 23. For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith Yahweh, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Shabbat to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith Yahweh. So in the kingdom, when there's a new moon, it's going to be a celebration of Shabbat. And every 7th day, a celebration of Shabbat. Okay? So we're getting ready to get our new moon, the first new moon of the year, which for us means 2025, the new year. 2025, the new year. Okay, the first moon of the new year is in about 5 days. The first new moon of the year. That's where we're headed. Now, so far, everybody. So now, I want to make sure y'all with me so far. Everybody's there. Okay, I want to make sure. Steve Kelly, everybody there? Okay. Okay. Rio Ticia, everybody's there? Okay. All right, everybody's there. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, let's move forward a little bit. Let's move forward. We're going to talk about the Feast of Pentecost now. Okay? Feast of Pentecost. That's the feast. So we're getting ready to move into about 5 days, our new year. And then 14 days after the new year is the Passover. And the 15th day is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay, so let's take it from there. So let's make an assumption for the sake of simplicity that next Tuesday is the new year. I'm not saying it is because we have to see the new moon, right? But let's just make an assumption. Let's say next Tuesday, the new year. That's April 1st. Make it very easy, okay? So April 1st, let's say April 1st is the Hebrew New Year. That's the new moon, the first new moon of the spring. That's our first new moon of our year, April 1st. Okay, I'm just using that as an example again. I don't know if it's April 2nd. It could be. I'm just using that as an example for simplicity's sake. Everybody got that so far. So we're making an assumption for our example. We're talking about now the Feast of Pentecost, that next Tuesday, April 1st, is the new moon. Okay. So 14 days later would be a Monday. April 1st is Tuesday next week. So 14 days later would be a Monday. That would be April 14th. That is the Passover. Okay, so if April 1st is the new year, April 14th is the Passover, 14 days later. So far, so good. Everybody got me? I'm taking it very slow because I know it can be very complicated, but I'm trying to make it as simple as I can so that we can all be on the same page. So now Monday, April 14th is the Passover. Okay. Tuesday, April 15th is the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, a 7-day feast. Now, that would be Tuesday, April 15th. Tuesday, April 15th. Now, that week will go, you come into the Shabbat. Okay, so I'm going to look at the calendar so I don't mess it up. So now, April 15th is a Tuesday. That's the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread for 7 days. So you go Tuesday the 15th, Wednesday the 16th, Thursday the 17th, Friday the 18th, Shabbat the 19th. Okay? Then on the Sunday, which is still the Feast of Unleavened Bread, is the 20th. Now, on that 20th of April, that's the first Sunday after the Shabbat, the 7-day Shabbat of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay, I know that's complicated, but it's the first Sunday after the Sabbath of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, not the ceremonial Sabbath, the 7th-day Sabbath. Okay, so you have your 7th-day Sabbath on April 19th. And then that 20th is the first day after that Sabbath. Does that make sense? Everybody with me so far? So April 20th is the first Sunday in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Everybody got me so far? I'm using Sunday because everybody can relate to that. Everybody knows what day that is. Now, from that Sunday, you're going to count 7 Sabbaths. I want to say it again. So from that Sunday, you're going to count 7 Sabbaths. From that Sunday is called the wave offering, where the priest waves the first of the barley harvest before the Most High. That's Sunday, April 20th. That's the wave offering. And so from the wave offering, you count 7 Sabbaths. So the first Sabbath of that is May 1st. I'm sorry, April 26th. See, I'm confused myself while I'm looking at the calendar. April 26th is your first Sabbath. May 3rd is your second Sabbath. May 10th is your third Sabbath. Okay? Counting 7. May 17th is your fourth Sabbath. May 24th is your fifth Sabbath. May 31st is your sixth Sabbath. And June 7th is your 7th Sabbath. So from April 20th to June the 7th is 7 Sabbaths. Everybody got me so far? So from April 20th to June the 7th is 7 Sabbaths. Okay, everybody got that? Test? Okay. So that means that on June the 8th is the 50th day after the wave offering. And what is the 50th day called? Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks. Everybody with me so far? So, all right, I'm going to go over it again, but I just want to make sure you're following me so far. So what we did was we started in April. So April the 1st is our new year. April the 14th is the Feast of the Passover. April the 15th is the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now, beginning April 15th, you go to April 20th, which is Sunday. That's the first Sunday after the Sabbath. So you go to April 19th is your Sabbath, your 7th-day Sabbath. The first day after that, that's Sunday. That's April 20th. Now, from April 20th, that's the wave offering. Okay, that is why when Messiah was resurrected, he told Mary, touch me not, because I'm not yet ascended to my Father. Because he had to go, and he's the wave offering to be accepted of the Father. He said, I go to my God and your God. Tell my brethren I'm going to meet them in Galilee. So he had to go and his sacrifice had to be accepted. That's the wave offering. Okay? Then you count 7 Sabbaths. So 7 Sabbaths. First Sabbath was April 26th. Second Sabbath is May 3rd. Third Sabbath is May 10th. Fourth Sabbath is May 17th. Fifth Sabbath is May 24th. Sixth Sabbath is May 31st. And the seventh Sabbath is June 6th. I'm sorry, June 7th. That's 49 days from the 20th of April, June the 7th. The 50th day, which is June the 8th, is Pentecost, the 50th day. 50, Penti means 50. So June the 8th is Pentecost, which is also called the Feast of Weeks, which is also called the Feast of the First Fruits. And if you recall, the Bible said that people came out of their tombs after Messiah's resurrection and appeared unto many, and we see 24 elders around the Father's throne in Revelation chapter 4. Okay, so that's June 8th, the Feast of the First Fruits, otherwise known as Pentecost. Okay, that's the second feast of the year. First feast of the year is April 14th, which is the Passover. Second feast of the year is June 8th, which is Pentecost, 50 days after the 20th of April. Okay? Yeah, definitely rewind this one, EE. You're right. So that, and make sure you have a calendar with you so you can see it, okay? Make sure you're looking at a calendar. I'm looking at a calendar on my computer right here. So that's why I'm able to do it. Otherwise, I'd mess it up myself. Okay, so now the last feast of the year is the 7th month, the 15th day of the month. Okay, so for us, we know that the first day of the month of the first day of the year is April 1st. Okay, and so you want to, let's just use it. It's not going to go according to this calendar because the moon phases don't go by the calendar all the time. Okay, it just so happens it's working out that way. This time we praise the Most High because it helps us see it. But the first month of our year is April 1st. Let's just go by the ones, just for simplicity's sake. Okay, you got to look at the new moons. You got to observe it to know when it really is. But for our example, let's assume April 1st is the first day of the new year for the Hebrews. That would mean May 1st is the second month, right? June 1st is the third month. July 1st is the fourth month. August 1st is the fifth month. September 1st is the sixth month. And October 1st is the seventh month. Okay. So and again, we're just using this as an example. You got to actually look at the phases of the moon to know what exactly these days are. But we're just using this as an example so that we can understand how it works. Okay, that's all we're doing. We're looking to show how it works. Okay, now, if October 1st is the first day of the seventh month, what happens on the first day of the seventh month in the Hebrew calendar? What happens in the first day of the seventh month in the Hebrew? I'm getting ready to show you in the Bible, but I want to know if you know it. What happens in the first day? That's right. Thank you, Brother David. The trumpets. That's right. So let's look at, again, Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus chapter 23. I'm going to read from verse 23 down to verse 25. This is Leviticus chapter 23. I'm going to stay in Leviticus 23 for this one. Make it easy. So Leviticus chapter 23 from verse 23 to verse 25. Leviticus 23 from 23 to 25. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the seventh month, in the first day of the month, ye shall have a Shabbat, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. So in our example, October 1st would be the blowing of trumpets. the first day of the 7th month. I want to make sure we're all there. Y'all see that? So for our example, if April 1st is the first day of the year, and we wanted to go by the first, for the sake of example, the 7th first would be October 1st. That would be the blowing of trumpets. Everybody got that? That is not the new year that the Ashkenazis claim is a new year. It is not the new year, and it's not a feast. It's the blowing of trumpets. It's actually a warning, right? The blowing of trumpets is not a feast. Blowing of trumpets is never a feast. The blowing of trumpets is a warning. Something's coming. And so October 1st would be the blowing of trumpets. 10 days later, that would be October 10th. What happens on the 7th month and the 10th day of the month? What happens on the 7th? That's right. That is the Day of Atonement. That would be again. So let's take a look. Leviticus 23. I'm going to read from verse 26. From verse 26 down to verse 30. Okay? This is Leviticus chapter 23 from verse 26 down to verse 30. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, also, on the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. And ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yahweh your Most High. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that doth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. That is the day that sin is taken out of the sanctuary and off the nation of Israel as a nation, the Day of Atonement. That's why he said affliction is another word for saying repentance. Y'all catching me? That's the day of repentance, a national day of repentance for Israel to take all sin off of Israel. But it's not just removing sin from Israel. It's sealing Israel in righteousness. So you take the sin off and righteousness is placed there. That's why if somebody's working on that day, they're not repenting, they're not even acknowledging it, and they're not having their sin removed. That's why he said, we're going to destroy you from among your people, because sin is going to remain on you. So the 10th day of the 7th month, in our example, is October 10th. That would be the Day of Atonement. Every 50th year, what is it? So on this particular year, it's not that, but if it was the 50th year, what would October 10th be? It's not, I'm just saying, if it was the 50th year, what would October 10th be? That's right. October 10th would be the Jubilee. But we know that the 50th year is to 2027, not 2025. So we know in 2027, on the 10th day is the Jubilee. Okay? All right. But now I got one more question. So October 10th would, in our example, would be the Day of Atonement. Something else happens 5 days later on October 15th. The 7th month, the 15th day of the month. That's right, Brother David. It is the Feast of Tabernacles. That's right, Superstar. It is the harvest. That's exactly right. So that is the harvest. And so we know that spiritually speaking, it's a day for a year. So we know that in 2027, the 10th day of the month is the Jubilee. And 5 years later, in 2032, is the harvest. Everybody got me on that? That makes sense to y'all? Everybody there? Okay. So this is just, again, the Bible tells us he set these things up for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. That's how we know where we're at. Okay. So this year, next week, I'm just using the first example. Again, we're all going to observe in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. You're going to look in the sky around Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and you're going to tell me, do you observe the crescent moon or don't you? If you do, then it's the new year. Everybody got that? So next week, we get ready to get into a new year. Next week, right? And always the sign is the equinox. The day that there's equal hours of sun and darkness. It's never exact. It's usually like 12 hours and 4 minutes versus 12, versus 11 hours and 59 minutes. I mean, usually like that. It's never exact. It's only like a minute off. But when you get that day, that's the equinox. Your first new moon after that, that's your new year. So when you see your 12th new moon come in February, you know you got to add a 36-day month. And you also know when it's coming. It's going to be 7 years. So last year was the 7th year. So the next time we add a 36-day month is 2031. Okay, 7 years from last year. Everybody got me? So far, so good? So every 7th year, you're going to add 36 days. So we do that next in 2031. Last year was 2024. Next time, 2031, you're going to add a 36-day month. Okay? And you're going to know, because if you count in the new moons, you're going to end up in February on your 12th new moon. And it shouldn't be. It should be March. Your 12th month should always be March. If it's not, if you're early, then there's a problem. Okay? There's a problem. Your 12th month is supposed to be March. Okay? March on the Gregorian calendar is the 12th month for the Hebrews. Okay? Always should be that way. All right. So now and this is how I could use the Gregorian calendar to help me keep track of prophetic events. So I could use the Gregorian calendar and understand that, oh, it's March. That means it's supposed to be the 12th month. And if it's the 12th month, we get ready. The new moon after the equinox is our new year. Okay. We know that. Now, what we also know is 2027 is the 40th Jubilee, since Messiah declared a Jubilee in AD 27 in Luke chapter 4. He declared a Jubilee when he said, "This day is this scripture fulfilled in your ears." And he was quoting Isaiah 61, which is a quote of a Jubilee. Okay, and that was AD 27. So now AD 27 becomes a Jubilee. Very easy after that. 2777, 2777. Every 50 years is a Jubilee. 2777, 2777. Okay, so now we have one 1977. The next one is 2027. And that's the 40th one. Okay, 2027. That's the 40th one. Now, last year, when we added a 36-day month, it was 3.5 years until 2027. Last year. Okay, so now this year, it's 2.5 years, right? Until 2027. It's 2.5 years. We're getting close, brethren. We're getting close. There's no doubt. It's getting close, okay? And we know now, again, just make this very simple. Every feast of Yahweh is a sign. Let me just say that to start us off. Y'all understand that? Every feast is a sign. Okay? Everybody got that? I want to make sure we got that. Every feast is a sign. What does that mean? That means it's a prophetic fulfillment of something. When Paul says these are a shadow of things to come, that means there's a prophetic fulfillment of the thing. So what's the prophetic fulfillment of the Passover? It's the Messiah. His death is the Passover. He is the Passover lamb. Everybody understands that. Okay, even Christians understand that. So the Messiah is a Passover lamb. So the Passover is the sign of the Messiah first appearance when he became the Passover lamb. Pentecost is the sign of the early rain, right? The early rain and the first fruits. That's the sign. So when the Pentecost came in the Bible, they received the power of the early rain, and the first fruits were those that resurrected are the first fruits of the big resurrection that's coming later. But that's the first fruits. Everybody got that? So that the Feast of Weeks, otherwise known as Pentecost, was a sign. So now we need the sign of the feast of the sign of the trumpets, and we need the sign of the Day of Atonement. So when you work backwards, if 2027 is the 40th Jubilee, and you go prophetically, that means some sort of sign would have been in the heavens in 2017. Let me ask you all a question. Was there a sign in the heavens in 2017? That would be the sign of the trumpets. Was there? Yes, there was. There was a sign in the heavens in August of 2017. Okay, the blood moon, that's right. And that preceded the trumpets. 10 years later, 2027, which is 10 days prophetically speaking, is the sign of the atonement and the jubilee. 5 years later, there's only one sign left. Right? There's only one sign left to be fulfilled. There's one more feast. There's only 3 feasts in a year, and there's a trumpet call, and there's a Day of Atonement. That's not a feast, neither of them. That's when sin is removed from Israel. So check this out. So the Messiah is the Passover lamb. Okay? He's the atonement for the sins of Israel. The Pentecost is the early rain. He said, I'm going to send you the rain. The first, the latter rain and the early rain in the beginning or in the first. That's Joel, right? That was the early rain. That was the first fruits of the harvest. Not the harvest, it was the first fruits. Okay? Then the sign in 2017 was the call of trumpets to get ready. The sign in 2027 is the removal of sin of the nation of Israel and the promise of the restoration of all their land. That's what the Jubilee is about. It's about returning all land back to its original owners. So it's the sign of the latter rain, which is the seal, and that we're going to get all our land back. Then there's one more sign, one more feast. It's called the final feast of the harvest, the final harvest. The final harvest, the latter rain, the final resurrection. Y'all got me? That is tabernacles. No more wandering the wilderness. We'll be home. The kingdom will be established. No more in our enemy's land. It'll be our land. No more in our enemy's kingdom. It'll be our kingdom. We're going to party. We're going to rejoice. We would have made it 2032 or before. 2032 or before. It's coming. Okay? The last sign. No more scattered people. That's it. See? Now, Israel understands these feasts. The heathen have no idea. All that we talked about tonight, do y'all think any heathen on planet Earth, aside from the Hebrews, did any heathen understand anything we're talking about? Do they understand any of these signs? There are people that still don't even know there's only 3 feasts. Okay? They just don't understand any of these signs. But we've been given this because the Most High wants us prepared. The rest of the world is going to be overwhelmed. They're going to be surprised. It's going to overtake them like a thief in the night. For us, there'll be no surprise. We'll be expecting it. See, that's a whole different thing when you're expecting it versus when you're surprised by it. That's 2 different attitudes. Somebody that's surprised don't know what's coming to hit them. Somebody that's expecting it is being prepared. So that if you knew that tonight, let's say you knew you received a prophetic vision, and let's say tomorrow night you knew that 3 men were going to be breaking into your house to rob you, rape whatever women's in the house, and take everything out the house. Would you get yourself prepared tonight? You could even call the police and they'll say, well, call us if you actually see something. Well, now I got to load all my gats. I got to put them in prestige. I got to pray. I got to be prepared, because if I know they're coming tomorrow, I'm ready, right? I'm ready. You come, you're going to have a problem, right? I'm ready for you. But if you have no idea, you'll be dead asleep, and the next thing you know, a barrel of a gun is pointed in your head, and one at your wife's head, and somebody getting ready to rape your woman. And you have no idea until you woke up and saw that barrel, right? That's how the world is getting ready to get hit versus us knowing when it's coming and how it's coming. Except for us, that event is good news. For us, is a rejoicing time. We are praising the Most High. Even some of you are not, you're praising the Most High at the very thought, understanding this is almost all over, right? Versus there are some people that would hear this and think, not only they'll tell you I'm crazy, not only that, they'll tell you my interpretation is wrong. And they'll say there's no way we would all know, because they don't want it to happen. The wicked do not want this event to take place. Plain and simple. They do not want it to happen. As bad as this earth is, as many children, and I was just telling my wife, I was praying this morning, my burden, because to me, little babies and children are the most vulnerable things on planet Earth. They're the ones that's most innocent of all humankind, are the babies. And the devil is killing, raping, murdering, slaughtering babies. Right? That's what's going on. And so I was like, Father, please end this stuff. Like, end it tomorrow, man. Get rid of it. Stop it. But you see, people in this world, they think man could do it. If man could do it, it would already been done. But man can't do it. And the most powerful people on the earth are the ones behind it. They're the ones doing it. They're the ones doing it. So for us, it's good news. We can't wait. We're counting them days. And that's why I'm praising the Most High. He revealed this, because he's counting the days. We know it's coming. And we can't wait, right? The wicked don't want to know. See, we know the robber's coming, and we're getting ready. The wicked don't want to know. They want to sleep and wake up, and it'll be too late. That's right. And they'll be trying to trim their lamps, and they won't have no oil. They won't have no oil. They won't be prepared, and the door will be shut in their face. That's what's coming. We praise the Most High. So all these events that we see taking place every week, every day on planet Earth, these horrible things that are happening, and these evil men that are making evil plans to deceive and hurt, and greed running rampant, that's going to continue. And we're not surprised. We see it. It's going to get worse. We know it. It's going to get worse. I was just telling somebody today, man, I get people on my next channel saying the craziest things, but I understand that a lot of the crazy things they're saying are based on their positions of gambling. It's not based on basketball knowledge. It's not based on logic. It's based on their gambling position. Now, isn't that crazy? So there are people that are gambling on certain things to happen, and they're hoping that happens so they can win money. And that's what I said. I said, they let gambling in sports, and it's going to destroy sports. The gambling world is going to destroy the whole thing. Okay? The gambling world is going to destroy the whole thing. Because greed, man, comes back to greed, doesn't it? Comes back to greed. It's always like that. And as long as you got greed, the world is going to destroy itself through greed. But the Most High is the Father. So he ain't going to let him destroy himself. He going to deliver his people and destroy it and make it new himself and establish his kingdom here. Okay, that's what he going to do. Praise the Most High. So he's shown us. So I went through all that because we're about to go through the new year. Go back over this video so you can see everything again. I know it's confusing, but I tried to break it down slowly as possible so you can see. So the new year for us is early next week. You'll see it in the sky yourself. And we could all touch base. We in the Hebrew channel, we touch base and we can see it. We take picture of it and we see it and we know what it is. Then we can know each new moon. It's interesting. 2 years ago, when we had our Memorial Day weekend, it was Pentecost. People didn't realize it, but it was Pentecost. 2 years ago, when we had our Memorial Day weekend, it was Pentecost. Praise the Most High. I don't think there's any coincidence that we got together and fellowshiped, and it was Pentecost. Now, this year is at Pentecost come after our weekend, but that's okay. Don't worry. As long as we're ready for that 7th month, it would be all right. Praise the Most High. That's the most important time for us right now. The time of the 7th month. Praise the Most High. But somebody, I think it was my daughter, asked me, can we, why don't we celebrate? Well, we're in our enemy's land, but we acknowledge what day it is because we want to keep a conscience of what's going on and of what the signs are. Because we know that the feasts are prophetic signs. Okay. And we're following them from watching the moon and seeing the phases of the moon and understanding how the years change and the seasons. Praise the Most High. All right. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, family.